All right. Thanks for joining me, Kevin. I'm on actually your small business coaching brief today. How's it going?
It's a beautiful day here in Colorado, and my feelings are with all of you who are up to your backsides in snow or about to be.
I know, right? That's I feel a little bad because we're getting this high pressure system in here, and it's going to be in the 50s over this weekend. And looking across the country, sorry.
Yes, indeed.
Well, real quick before we jump into the questions, we're going to continue with the 7 questions to ask that you've asked your small business owners for 2016. And I want to kind of give a precursor to what we'll talk about next week. But what happened earlier this week was you conducted a personal vision workshop. Yes,
I did.
How? And I know we did that at the North, and I was there. It was awesome. What's your big takeaway from that day with having those people kind of absorb what you were giving them?
I'd say that from the comments I got afterward, we had a mix of people there, a few business owners and a lot of people that work for other folks. And some of the comments I got were along the lines of, I realized I needed to do this, and now I've gotten some questions, or perhaps the most poignant one was someone who approached me after and said that they had thought they had everything iced as far as their goals and visions, and then they had a significant life change they didn't expect. So they were having to start over again, and it was really a thought-provoking experience for them.
I would
imagine something like that really makes it worthwhile when you're doing a workshop.
I liked that. I know you shared during the workshop too the experience where someone was able to achieve that new work-life balance thanks to your guidance and stuff. But I think that's great too, because you can plan and plan and plan, and unexpected will hit, and your plans have to shift. Taking the time right then to shift your plans in the midst of that change can be hard. So
it is, and one of the things that I really encourage people to do is once you set your personal vision, you refer to it time to time. And obviously it will change periodically if your life conditions change or there's a major change in family relations, what have you. But the one thing I wanted everyone to take away is whenever they made a major decision about what to do with their life, their job, or their business, that they view it through the lens of their personal vision so that it's consistent with their goals. And the vision may change somewhat, but your underlying principles and morals really don't.
That's right.
And everything needs to be consistent with that.
That's right. And I like, so speaking of consistency, this can usher us into our first question. I've got the questions populated on the left side, but I'll go ahead and pop this up that we're going to answer this one. So the single most important improvement that we or I can make in my company in the coming 12 months is blank. Can you talk a little bit about asking that questions of your small business owner members and where you're trying to get with that?
Certainly. By the time we get to this, we've already reviewed the first couple of questions of the 7 most important questions a business owner can ask themselves at the end of the year and the beginning of the new year, which were where they expect their revenues to be for the coming year, the one thing that will most affect the ability to affect that number, what the change will be in the profit margin and reviewing cash flow. But then I asked them the single most important improvement that they can make in their company in the coming 12 months. And as part of our planning process, we look to determine, along with the goals and the implementation of the plan, is what the single most important, what's the critical success factor, or in this case, the defining critical success factor. And I asked the business owners I work with what the single most important improvement they can make in the company. And that could be anything from improving profit margins to adding a product line to making personnel changes, or something that actually leads into the next question, which is how their personal role will change in the company. And that's a thought-provoking question for someone, because it forces someone to step back from their business and take a look at it and think really as a manager rather than as a worker. Because one of the constant themes that you have is work on your business, not in it. And this is a question that forces them to step back and look at the business from the outside in.
Do you find it seems like a recurring issue too when you're a business owner and you're busy with your business? Do they kind of give you a blank stare when you're at, like, okay, you got to step back and look at this. What if they're like, I don't have time to do this? I mean, what kind of reactions and responses do you get?
Well, that's frequently a response I get, not necessarily from people that I've been working with, but from people that I talk to about what I do and whether or not we choose to work together. Oddly, the chief thing I run into is, gee, I really like what you do. I really like what you do with your groups. I really like the concept, but I'm so busy being busy that I don't have time to manage more strategically. And for the people that have made that jump and made that commitment, I think you'll find the great majority of them do say that the time that they invest in figuring out how to run their business better is time well spent. If it can take them from working 70 hours a week on their business to 55 hours a week, that's additional time for them to accomplish some of the other things they need to accomplish, whether that's having a better relationship with their family or exploring some things that they need to do to help them stay sane that's outside of the business.
Do you find that I feel like time investment is often looked at similarly to a money investment? Everyone hates having to pay some big chunk of money, even though you know the reward will likely be a benefit. Do you find that's pretty similar with the time question as well?
I do. I think it's the risk return proposition, but most frequently the people never object to the expense of working with a business coach or peer advisory group. It's always the time commitment. And that's really what they gain from doing that, because a large part of that is learning how to manage their time and manage their business more effectively.
Let me ask you this. At the end of the year, do you revisit how they've answered this question at the start of the previous year to see if they accomplished what they set out to do with this question? Did you make that improvement?
It's part of their individual coaching. So we'll frequently go through and let's take a look at the year in review. And here is what you thought was going to happen or what changes you were going to make. Did you succeed in making those changes and what effect did it have? Or if you didn't, why didn't you? And let's figure out how to make sure you do that if it's still a necessary thing for you to do.
Right. Cool. Well, let me pop out. Thank you for answering all those questions on that one. And like you said, it segues nicely into the next question. By the end of calendar 2016, since that's where we are, my personal role in the company will have changed in the following manner. Talk a little bit about why you asked this question of your business owners.
That's another important follow-on to working on the business and not in it. It helps the people that I work with, the business owners, realize that they are critical to the function of the business, but let's take another look at the things that you're really good at and the things that you enjoy doing, which tie back to the personal vision, and the things that you do that make a big picture impact on the business. Because if you're answering the phone and dealing with customer complaints or taking orders when really you should be creating software or out generating business, that's not the best use of your time. Right. If you're spending hours during the week posting entries to your accounting system, that's not the best use of your time. If your time is worth in the hundreds of dollars an hour, which it generally is for small business owners, it just doesn't make sense for you to be devoting the hours to something that can be done by someone that's time is much less expensive. So one of the things I really encourage them to do as part of this process is, again, to step back and take a look at what it is that you can do that will make a bigger impact on the business to get it where you want to go, to accomplish your critical success factors and move the needle in the direction that you need to go to hit your goals for the coming year.
Do you talk with them about, and again, business owner here too, you can talk about that concept and they glaze over. Do you go through strategies with them, okay, and almost kind of handhold them to say, here's how we back up and take a look at this? And again, I know your current business owners may be well used to this practice and have it more in hand. but do you provide some kind of almost baby steps or marching orders for how they can effectively follow through on this question?
We do. And as part of the process, when I start working with someone for the first time, we go through and we assess, do we do a behavioral assessment, as well as sit down with them and go through their personal goals and translate that into their company vision. Mm-hmm. And as we start doing that, then we do some proprietary diagnostics in terms of our business vantage, where it's an internal sports report card, managed scorecard, basically, where they evaluate what's important in their business and how they perform against what's important in their business. And then from there, we do a gap analysis and identify what the things are they need to improve in their business. So it's basically a hand-holding to get them started in the process of having a plan and how to implement that.
Right.
And from there, we begin to establish the plan based on what the critical things are that they need to accomplish, both short-term and then longer-term.
Cool. Well, and then I like that we actually have a couple more minutes to go over the following question that follows up after question 5, which we just did. That one thing that needs to be accomplished in order to realize that role change in number 5, what is that? And you specify that if that means delegation and stuff. What are some different options you help come up with for those?
Yeah, and that ties into the quality of life that we'll touch on with the next question. And that's whether they delegate something or whether they realize that they're spending time doing things they shouldn't. And for example, everyone's got a to-do list, but we encourage people to hold that up. And I think I've mentioned before that we sometimes use a to-don't list. Let's take a look at the things that you do every day that you really don't need to be doing. Even if it's as simple as how often do you check your email or how often do you respond to email? Because anyone that's working around a computer knows that emails come in a constant stream.
Right.
And it's very difficult to concentrate when you get a notice that there's another email. And it could be as simple as just turning off the Outlook notification function or the Gmail notification function and just schedule that, all right, I'm going to deal with emails at this particular time of day and set a regular schedule, or I devote this particular hour to handling inbound or outbound phone calls. Particularly if you're working on project-oriented stuff, that's much, much more important.
I like that notion. And it's so hard today because everyone feels like, well, I need to be available all the time, instead of creating structure to say, well, no, I will respond to an email within 24 hours. That's a reasonable expectation, but perhaps giving your customer your cell phone, or, say, text me if it's an emergency, or even a contractor say, I will answer an email in 24 hours, but here's an alternate method if it's an emergency that will get right to me.
Yeah, and that's part of the change that you can make with your customers or with your clients, is that most people will be respectful of your time and your need to run your business, and as long as they understand that you are as well. And some of my clients do a very good job of setting the expectation. Say there's a service level agreement. If it's an email request, we'll respond to it in 24 hours. If it is a text or a phone call request with a problem, then that's negotiated at the front end of the service agreement. We'll respond, for example, within 90 minutes. If it's a mission critical application, or arrange with the client ahead of time, please let us know the level of severity of the problem. If you are particularly in a technical environment, in a real-time environment where you have to take care of problems to keep production going.
Right. Do you, I feel like, and again, it comes back to discipline. How do you, when we're talking about that to-don't list, do you have them kind of like give them a challenge to say, okay, in a week or even in a day, have a little notepad down there, and every time you're getting distracted off or something, write down, it's almost like a self-perception need to make sure they realize what classifies as a to-don't. Can you talk a little bit about how you help them?
Well, I haven't had to go there yet. Luckily, the people I work with have had at least enough discipline to recognize when they're doing things that they really shouldn't be doing and to pull back from them a little bit. Right. But that is a useful tool. And I have used that in the past, and I'm sure I'll use that again. But an informal time diary is a very important thing. And let's go back and look at those tasks that you did that you shouldn't be doing, or you should do at a different time of the day. I mean, most people are very cognizant of how the time is spent with the people that they're paying to do things, but sometimes have difficulty recognizing the opportunity costs of, gee, I'll just take a couple of minutes and do this, and it takes them away from a much more important thing that you should be working on.
I love what you just said too. I think we're so cognizant of saying, well, I don't want to, if I'm paying someone to do this, they need to stay on task, and I'm going to be careful with that. But when it comes to yourself, you skate over that. You're like, well, I just need to do it. And you ignore that. I actually have a sticky note on my computer that says I need to track my time. And that can be time where I'm spending on something where how much is that taking away? And I need to maybe hire someone down the road, but it's so true.
Yeah, that's true. And that really, I think, kind of takes us back to that seventh question, which is the reason that you're in business is to provide yourself a particular quality of life, something that you aspire to that's in your personal vision. And you really need to think as you come into the new year of how the ability of your business to provide the quality of life that you want to have is going to indicate your ability to meet your goal. What personal measure are you going to use? And I can't emphasize that enough. Is it the ability to improve the amount of money you take out of the business, or is it spending more time with family?
Right.
You need to think about that and balance that with wants and needs. I think that's the most critical takeaway on the day.
I think that's fantastic. And business, there's a quote from the movie You've Got Mail, Tom Hanks and what's her face? Meg Ryan. And they use that premise. He's trying to teach her how to be tough. He's like, it's not personal, it's business. And later she's like, but it was personal. What you did to my business was personal to me. And I think that ties into saying, yes, it's a business and you're working on it and you can be tough and stuff, but it has a personal impact on you. I love that you bring out that concept of a personal measure is so important to an owner.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good. Well, cool. Well, we are at the end of our business brief for small business owners and coaching.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much again for your time today. And we'll be on next Friday at 10 to talk about, we're going to recap that personal vision workshop you did. Again, getting back to personal. Thank you, Danny. Danny's giving us applause and props. And thank you, Daryl. And we'll have this on your website as well to replay. Connect with Kevin on LinkedIn. His links are in the sidebar, as well as Twitter. And we'll talk about personal vision next week. And I swear, I've got some questions on this too to follow up, because that really was eye-opening to me in there. So it'll be good.
Okay.
But thank you so much. And we will sign off now and see you next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.